go.
Good morning. Good morning. How the devil are you doing this Sunday? Got a few hellos to say. Hold the front page. Ken Hatter is in Tesco's having breakfast. Do you ever eat at home, Ken? Just thought I'd check. Good morning to you, Ken. Hope you're fitting well. Gary Muirhead is here as well. Good morning, Ruth Anthony. Happy Easter to you and your family. Thank you very much indeed for that. Jim Turner is here as well. Good morning, Jim. Our friend Wolf Welder is tuning in all the way from the mighty US of A. Mehmet is saying hello from Turkey over on Instagram. Good morning to you as well. Chris Ford is here as well. Good morning. Happy Good Friday. Thank you very much indeed. There's Gary Muirhead again. Good morning, Mark. Happy Easter, everyone. Yeah, happy Easter indeed. Footy's here. Mark Whiting is here. I'm sure there's other people. Oh, Dan Cullen. Obviously, Dan Cullen was here basically before I was. But good morning. Good morning, everybody. I know it's a bit early, as it is just Good Friday, but happy Easter, everybody. Even if you're not celebrating, we'll come to that in just a moment. Yes, while others have shut up shop, hopefully a few of them permanently, we soldier on to bring you Easter treats that will not leave you with a toothache, an expanded waistline, or diabetes in my case. We do have a full show for you today, which just goes to prove there really is no rest for the wicked. Just a very quick one. You know, we were talking yesterday, or I say we, I was talking about the current state of the upper echelons of the various trade associations. I mentioned the fact that the CEA, the CPA, the CEA, CPA, Lighthouse Club, the Builders Conference, and there was one other. Can't remember what it was. But they've all lost their chairman and their chief executives of late. I was informed just after I came off line yesterday, I was informed that the National Demolition Training Group, they've lost their head honcho as well. And also Mates in Mind Charity lost their head honcho. What the hell is going on? Yes, there is our friend Wolfie over in the States saying, still working on a Good Friday. Yeah. By popular, well, I'm doing it by popular demand. In other words, somebody said they'd be here. But yeah, the news doesn't stop. There's still plenty to talk about. And frankly, my family festivities don't start until about noon today, so I've got a bit of time to fill. So with all that being said, without further ado, please have a day off. It's a bank holiday. I'm going to have a day off on Monday. You have my word, Ken. I will not be here on Monday. You can have as many Tesco breakfasts as you like on Monday because you will not be interrupting me at all. So without further ado, let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. Here we go. So people are joining over on Instagram, but the one that stood out was my mate Garvin over at Mostly Diggers. Plan to meet up with Garvin while we're in. We're both going to be in Paris at the same time. Both going to the Intermat show, obviously, and I think he's there on the Friday and the Saturday. I come home on the Saturday, but he's there on the Friday. So he and I will set the world to rights on Friday afternoon, hopefully, over a croissant, maybe. I don't know. We'll see how it all pans out. Yes, it is Friday, the 29th of March. In fact, it's Good Friday. Well, I'm not so sure what's good about it. It's pouring with rain and, you know. But welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. The Walrus. I can't even say it with a straight face. The Walrus of Demolition. In today's show, Kubota celebrates 50 years in Europe. We're taking a closer look at the JCB Raptor, and we're sticking with tilt rotators as we catch up with Joe Westman of Steelwrist UK. We're off to Marseille to see a sugar silo being meticulously taken apart, plus with Intermat barreling towards us like a runaway freight train. We'll be looking ahead to see what LiuGong will have in store for us all. But before we get to all of that, we do have the small matter of today's mystery machine to solve. So let's have some of this. Yeah. Good morning to Mick Norton, by the way, who's just joined us. You've just got the question of the day. I will remind you of that in just a moment. But we've got a mystery machine for you to solve. And it looks like that. I am looking, as always, for a make. I can't show you the card I've got in front. Well, I can't show you the front of it. I've got a card in front of me with the name and the nomenclature of the machine in question. If anybody can figure that out, love to hear from you. But it's a very specific one again, because you guys are all too good. So I need you to be very specific about this one. Can you solve what that mystery machine is? We will come back to it in just a moment, but I did promise to remind you what the question of the day is, and I plan to do so. Here it comes. Yeah, our question of the day, appropriately, is this. Do you actually celebrate Easter? Do you go in for the eggs and the bunnies? Are you heading off to church at any point in the next few days? Do you buy the whole resurrection, Jesus a zombie deal? I can say these things because I'm not religious at all. But what about you? Is it just a day off or a couple of days off if you're lucky? Or do you actually get into the whole Easter religious festival? Do you buy into all of it? Love to hear from you. Diacon Demo, my mate Frank over in Australia, all the way from Australia, has just joined us over on Instagram. Morning, Frank. Good afternoon. Good evening, Frank. It'll be one of those. Please let us know in the chat. Do you do Easter? Going back to our mystery machine, I had a couple of guesses. Footy says dump truck. I need a bit more than that. 10-ton track dumper. Tracked. I realise you're probably looking at this on a very small screen, Dan, but tracked. Yeah, I think you're going to do better than that. Should we have a bit more? I think we probably should. Here we go. That's what you've got to work with. As you can see, it most certainly is not tracked. But what is that mystery machine? As I say, I need a make and I need a model number, very specific model number as well. Come back to that in just a moment because we do have some things to do, starting with this. Yeah, I am a man. Well, you could tell. I am a man of a certain age. I remember a time when your phone stayed at home when you went out. I remember flared trousers from the first time around. I remember the arrival of the video recorder. I remember the launch of the Sony Walkman. I even remember a time when women sported pubic hair without fear of ridicule. Yes, I really am that old. I also remember the arrival of the very first mini excavators from Japan in the mid to late 1980s. Oh, how we all laughed. Turns out we were wrong. But it turns out that one of the true mini excavator pioneers has been in Europe for a lot longer than I realised.
It might surprise you, but it has been over 50 years since we planted our first seeds in France, marking the inception of our sales offices and the beginning of our journey in Europe. Since then, our growth has been unstoppable, and we are now established in more than 24 countries across Europe, standing as one of the major benchmarks. This has truly been an incredible journey, prompting us to ask, how have we come so far? What have we learned? What is the secret? And what is our purpose? One might think that the answer lies in the reliability of our company and the machines we sell, or perhaps in the belief that our mission is that of a solution providers and problem solvers. It could also be attributed to the fact that Kubota's technology explains it all. However, All these advantages alone do not explain the extent of our journey. At Kubota, we have learned the most important factor is the people who have accompanied us over these 50 years. Each and every person working at Kubota. Our sellers, who are our partners, deserve our sincere gratitude for being part of this great Kubota family. And of course, we extend our thanks to our customers. In addition to continuing to provide for them with the best possible service, we want to express our gratitude and continue listening to them because that is our great secret, understanding what our customers truly need. It's all about service. It's all about excellence. It's all about people.
There you have it. I'm going to go over to the chat very, very quickly. Gary Muirhead saying, I wonder if Mr. Kubota is still alive. There are certainly some Mr. Kubotas. I don't know if that's the original one. I actually did the PR for Kubota in the early 1990s. So let me think. KX008. I was actually involved in the launch of that machine. So yeah, I go back with them an awful long way. Mick Norton says, I always found Kubota excavators very versatile, robust tool. I totally agree. Jim Turner says they'd take some beating. I wish they'd move up in the 13 to 21 ton range. Yeah, absolutely. Always been some talk about that. And I don't know whether they actually have anything like that over in Japan. But you would think they could have a dabble. I mean, I know they've gradually gone up the size range, but yeah, not got there yet. Lots of answers on our question of the day, but I do need to go back to our mystery machine, which looks currently like that. And we've had a couple of guesses here. One, Chris Ford saying mystery machine, Cat 777. It is not. Dan Cullen is saying Komatsu HD 785-8 rigid. It is not. But manufacturer-wise, you're on the money. And Gary Muirhead is also on the money, manufacturer-wise, with an HD 325-8. It's neither of those things, but you do have the right manufacturer. So hope that whittles it down. Here is a little bit more to be going on with. It's another bit of wheel, but we all know roughly what we're working with now. If anybody's got any suggestions on what that might be, you will be forever held as an expert in your field. You don't win a prize, but people will look upon you admiringly. You may even be stopped in the street for your autograph. That's unlikely, but you might be stopped for your autograph. I mean, Steve Williamson, who has just joined us, gets that all the time. It'd be completely familiar to him, obviously. Now, people, let's move on, shall we? Because we do have more to do. Let's have a smidgen of this, and I'll come back and show you something else.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Now, I've got to be honest, when I first decided to broadcast the film you're about to see, I was tempted to ask you to vote hot or not to get your feedback. But I changed my mind. I think there's a bit too much brand loyalty to other key brands in the same field. So I'm not sure that the thing what I'm about to show you would get a fair hearing. But this is JCB's first foray into the world of tilt rotators. We are currently, I'm just astounded, but I'll come back in just a second. But we are currently working on our own film of the Raptor, which contains a bit more detail and explanation. I hope to have that ready for you next week. But if tilt rotators are your thing, please stick around. Footy says, for JCB, excellent idea on the hydraulic. Extra idea, I'd give it a hot. I didn't think anybody else would, actually. Steve Williamson, who I will come back to in just a moment. Any experienced tilt operator will see a few major flaws with this tilt rotator. That was my concern. And listen, I value everybody's opinion, and I'm not going to try and censor anybody's opinion. But I thought as a first foray into the field, probably a little bit unfair, particularly given what we've got coming up in just a moment. However, we do need to go back to our mystery machine. Now, bearing in mind, I have shown you basically a wheel and a half, and somebody's already got it. Dan Cullen was going for the HD405-8. No. Gary Muirhead went for the HD405-8. It is not. However, Steve Williamson, who's getting rather too good at this, got it right. It is a Komatsu 980E. Well, it's a -4 actually, but that is an electric mining truck from the mighty Komatsu. And just to prove that neither Steve nor I am lying, here it is in all its glory. There you are. It is the 980E-4 from Komatsu, and a damn fine machine it is as well. So yes, congratulations, Steve. You got that right. Chris Ford says mystery machine guess 2 Cat 785 high rigid dump truck. It is not. Gary Muirhead also on the subject. Now, bearing in mind what his logo looks like, I'm not sure about the rams being exposed at the back. Could be damaged very easily, he says. Well, stick with your loyalties to Steelwrist, please, Gary, because we're going to be back with them in just a moment. But as I say, we do have our own Raptor film coming probably next week. So pay attention to that. Hopefully you'll learn a little bit more. But we need some of this first of all. I say some of this. We need this. Yeah, before I press play on the next film, I need to apologise. I need to apologise to you, the audience, and I need to apologise even more to the star of the film, which is Steelwrist UK Joe Westman, or Steelwrist UK's Joe Westman, should I say. I shot this over in Hamburg when I was with Steelwrist earlier this month. The taxi to take me back to the hotel had just arrived, so rather than setting my camera on the tripod like anybody sensible might do, I was in a hurry, so I propped the camera on a desk. So to be clear, Joe is not a giant, and I didn't mean to shoot up his nostrils. But I think what Joe has to say more than makes up for my terrible camera work. So let me dredge this off of my hard drive, because that's where it resides. It looks a bit like this.
Westman, I'm the country manager for Steelwrist in the UK. I'm responsible for the whole of the UK market for the Steelwrist products. The tilt rotator market in particular is growing so quickly in the UK at the moment. To be able to come now into the market with a tilt rotator that's new from the ground up is very, very exciting for us. Yeah, we're very excited. The market understanding of the product and the concept is just, it's growing so fast. And we estimate we're approaching maybe 5% penetration for the tilt rotator concept in the UK market. So we've got so far to go. The level of understanding is getting better, but there's always going to be the older generation that aren't so willing to accept new technology, of course. I mean, you'll get that with anything involving technology. We started off mainly with owner-operators, and now we're moving more into the larger groundworks and contractors. Plant hire, I think plant hire will eventually awaken to the concept, but I think we're a long way away from that today. One of the sort of core things that we're trying to do is make our technology easy to use and easy to access, as was discussed earlier with making the installations for the dealers easier. Of course, that then in turn will hopefully make everything easier for the operator as well. I mean, I've always said to customers that I don't feel like you will necessarily get the absolute best you can out of a tilt rotator without the aid of a GPS system, but simultaneously you won't get the best out of a GPS system unless you have the flexibility of a tilt rotator.
Apologies once again, Joe. You deserved way better than that. I am going to flash up exactly what Gary Muirhead just said. Joe is a very nice guy, very knowledgeable about anything Steelwrist. He certainly is. And I really did put him on the spot. It was literally walking out the door. Have you got 5 minutes, Joe? Sit yourself down, put a camera up his nose, and we fired off. So obviously everything he said there, completely off the cuff. Mick Norton says, as an older plant operator, I welcome the concept of Steelwrist ancillary. You're absolutely right. I'm going to go back a stage here. I know Dan Cullen has asked a question, which was that. Is anyone else working? Well, obviously, I mean, if you consider what I do work, I am working. Steve Williamson, still riding high on having got our mystery machine. Sounds like he's been listening to me. Yeah, you all do sound very similar when you're talking about GPS and tilt rotators. There's a reason for that. It's because you're right. Really is as simple as that. Jim Turner, this is a very valid argument, and I'm glad you've shared this, Jim. Says, I suppose their tilt rotator is a bit like the machines just talk about JCB and the Raptor. It's either good or bad depending on the price compared to the competition. With most things, there's usually something out there that's better, but more expensive. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I don't know what the price point is on the JCB Raptor, because we don't get to discuss those kind of things. But one of the things that I think is worth bearing in mind is, I think if you are, particularly if you're an owner operator and you know the machine is very much your baby, and you're going to be spending a lot of time on GPS and tilt rotator work, then yes, you're probably going to go away and do your homework among the Steelwrists and the Encons and the roto tilts of this world, and justifiably so. You know, they are the standard for the industry. But I think if you're a JCB customer, you've got a good relationship with your local dealer, and you trust the JCB brand, and you trust the support that you will get from your local dealer, there will be a temptation among a good many people. And bearing in mind, JCB is a very popular brand here in the UK, there will be a lot of people that go and buy, for example, the Hydra Dig, and while they're buying the Hydra Dig, yes, hang one of those tilty things off the end of it. I think they're going to sell a few. As I say, I also think it's very early days. Is it as good as the Steelwrist? Personally, I don't believe it is. Will they sell some? Yes, I believe they will. And also, bearing in mind something that Joe Westman just said there, they reckon they've got a 5% market penetration. You think about all of those tens, possibly hundreds of thousands of excavators, track down wheeled, backhoe loaders, mini excavators that are out there that don't currently have a tilt rotator on them. There is so much for Steelwrist, Encon, Rototilt, and JCB to go at. It's unbelievable. Good morning to MBS Demolition, who have just joined us over on Instagram. Whereabouts are in MBS Demolition? Are you in the UK? Are you elsewhere? Let us know in the chat, please. Mick says, morning all, miserable day. Yes, it is. Good Friday, but in words only, not actually in deeds. Footy says, that puts me in the picture. I can use a tilt rotator. More likely I'm used to Demolition. The GPS will take me down unless it talks to me. Yeah, well, it will come. You may not be able to hold a conversation with your tilt rotator yet, but give it, or your GPS rather, but give it time. I think that will probably come. Let's have a look. Yes, if it makes you feel better, Dan. And the sad thing is, I bought 40 litres of emulsion paint yesterday to apply on some walls this weekend if I get the chance. Pit at a factory to clean out tomorrow while they're on holiday. Awesome. And I will go back to see. Yeah, I know my wife commented somewhere along the line. Yes, basically in relation to our question of the day, which is, do you celebrate Christmas? Mr. A, we are celebrating with family. We're going over to my daughter's house in a couple of hours' time. Chocolate eggs, hot cross buns. She also wanted me to do the garden. All valid points, all very valid points. However, our back garden, currently looks a lot like a paddy field. More water than grass out there. Adelaide Plant Recovery just joined us. I'm assuming from Adelaide over in Australia, or over on Instagram. Garvin, Mostly Digger, says, why the name Raptor seems such an ill-fitting name. Yeah, Raptor, if you were naming a shear or a concrete muncher or something like that, I think it's a very good name. for a tilt rotator? Are Raptors known for having very flexible heads? Maybe they are. Let's have a look. Mick Norton says, did the JCB pothole repair ancillary gain the market foothold after the much lauded launch? I don't believe so. But I actually, in this instance, and as I say, I'm not a spokesman for JCB, I don't believe that is down to JCB or to the product. I think the product is very good at what it does. And those that have used it and those that have actually taken it on board, including Stoke City Council, I think have been very, very happy with it. The problem you've got with the Pothole Pro, obviously it's a very niche product for a start, but also potholes, road repairs and road building are one of those things that gets the attention of local authorities and obviously national government in the run up to an election. I would imagine once Rishi presses the button and says, this is when we're going to have an election, and by the way, we're freeing up all this cash to fix the nation's roads, I reckon we'll see more pothole pros going out the door. That's my personal opinion. Steve Williamson says, I'll be very, very surprised to see any of these Raptors on site. I won't. I think they'll shift a few as much because they're JCB as anything else. They'll get people. They'll get the people who won't invest in the better, more expensive ones, but take a punt on the JCB one if it's more affordable. I'm going to guess it will be more affordable, certainly than maybe a Steelwrist or something like that. But also, horses for courses. You know, if I'm going to be on tilt rotator all the live long day, you're probably going to pay the extra and get the top dollar. If you're only going to use it from time to time, a lot of the time it's going to be sat in the background, you know, collecting dust. Do you really want to pay top dollar for that? Probably not. Steve says, one big downfall on the hydraulic ground clearance, utter crap. I'll take your word for that. I've only driven it on hard standing, to be perfectly honest, so I'll have to take your word for that. But again, something like a Pothole Pro where you're actually working on a road, ground clearance, probably less of an issue. Jim Turner says, just about to go out and do my own work, unpaid, Dan. Was supposed to be finishing a pond off today, but couldn't get in as nobody from the main contractor was in today to cover the health and safety. Mark, is Mrs. Demolition Queen going to Hillhead this year? No. Mrs. Demolition News has very specific needs when it comes to overseas exhibitions. The key one is wine, apparently. So yes, more than happy to accompany me to Verona for the Samota show. Loved a bit of Verona. She did actually do her way around Verona rather better than I did. Loves her a bit of Con Expo with the Las Vegas in the background, all of that. But mention Plant Works or Future Works or Hillhead, and even she kind of sounded me out on Intermat. But when she learned that Intermat actually takes place on the very outskirts of Paris and not anywhere where she can get a decent drink, she bailed on that one as well. So no, she is not going to Hillhead. Let's have a look what we got here. Footy says the hydraulic guy actually did a job with at Warner Brothers. Quite enjoyed it, actually. Yeah, absolutely. Listen, one of the things that I've learned over the years is that this job is very much a horses for courses. You speak to, I mean, even more so now we've got the advent of social media. You put a machine up on Instagram, for example, and you'll literally divide the audience. Half of them say, oh, that's a load of rubbish. I had one of those. It fell apart and wheels fell off and everything else. And the other half of the industry, oh, that's the best thing ever. Wouldn't be without mine. Horses for courses. Dan Cullen, don't tempt her. Don't tempt her. We'd get the wine for it. No, we wouldn't. And besides, you know, I realise she needs her rest from me, and I need a rest from her from time to time. So yeah, it works out for everybody, I think. Possibly. Right, shall we crack on? Let's do that. What did we just have? What did we just have? We just had Steelwrist, which means it is time for this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
what's going on in the chat here. Jim Turner says, the trouble JCB footage is it's in the quarry and all pretty, but most of their products are up to their knackers in mud for a lot of its life. That's a test of kit. Yeah, I mean, I've said it before. I'll say it again. You have to separate the corporate look to actual work. One major manufacturer, and I would tell you this because I learned this fairly late on. There was one major manufacturer who used to take over one of the exhibition halls at the NEC up in Birmingham once a year, and they would green screen the entire thing, and they would bring in all of their machines one by one and photograph them, and then they would put that green screen photograph on a background, so you would see a machine in the middle of a muddy field but without a speck of dirt on the tracks. You'd see one in the middle of a quarry, no dust anywhere, and it was because everything was green screen. So that's the way that corporates are presenting it, and ultimately we're all going to see it out in the wild anyway. But I do take your point. Gary Muirhead says we call them Hydra Pig. a pig to drive or work on. Hydra Pig. Wasn't it The Simpsons? Spider Pig. Spider Pig does whatever a Spider Pig does. Just me. Chris Ford says, the next cup of tea, will you be wearing it or drinking it? With me, usually, it's both. Everything I own. This is brand new, actually, but everything I own has usually got tea spilled down it because I giggle to myself quite a bit. That's a whole other story. Now, things are about to get a bit ooh-la-la French up in here. It really is. In a few minutes, we're going to take a look at one of the exhibitors that is currently readying equipment for the Intermat exhibition next month. But first, we're going to Marseille in the south of France. We're not going for the bouillabaisse or for the pastis, both of which would be lovely, mind you. We're going to see a sugar silo being meticulously taken to pieces. Here we go. Sweet. Sugar silo, you get the idea. I know most people think that demolition is all wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. But demolition can be delicate when the need arises. As we're just going to go over to our friend Footy. Looks like a lot of the asbestos in that place. Love doing that. Imagine the dust. Yeah. They were taking great care. Great to see. I do need to go back to Chris Ford's point about the next cup of tea. Will you be wearing it or drinking it? That was reference to my wife, wasn't it? I belatedly realised exactly what you were getting at. And that's why there's a door behind me there. It's locked. I'm taking no chances. Steve says, then they put guys on the Raptor that have no great tilt rotator experience and then post it on social media. It's great. Why not get people that have plenty of experience to try it because they are scared of honesty? In absolute truth, The launch of the 370X, which obviously coincided with the launch of the JCB UX, the IntelliGrade, and also the Raptor, has lasted for about 3 weeks. And okay, I've just seen something on Instagram. I will be back to you in just a moment. Yes, it lasted for about 3 weeks, and I know they've had a good number of influencer. You noticed influencer sounds a lot like influenza. That's a whole other story. They've had a bunch of influencers up there as well. I think Ben Wade was up there. Ben, the operator, was up there a couple of days ago. So yeah, lots and lots of people. I wonder, Steve, I mean, it would be a long way for you to travel. I fully accept that. But JCB, if you're watching, Steve, bit of a tilt rotator expert, give him some stick time and let him go and have a play with it. But I also wonder, when you make points like that, I think they're valid points, but I also wonder if you're seen as a bit too close to the competition. Maybe. I don't know. And I know that's something we've discussed before with certain other influencers, but I do wonder whether they've either looked at where you are and thought that's a bloody long way to bring him, or they've looked at it and thought, actually, maybe not. I don't know. JCB, Steve, JCB. Steve says, Ben, no great tilt rotator experience, then post saying great piece of kit. False. You can only speak as you find, can't you? Natalie Huxtable, good morning to you. Natalie, obviously, sister of one of the guys that was killed at Didcot, and I'm still banging the drum, as you've probably seen over on LinkedIn today. Now, I've had a request, and I'm going to do this because I just love the way the way that they've named themselves. There is somebody over on Instagram has asked, can I shout out their account? Unusual. I wouldn't normally do this, but the man goes by the name of Kim Jong Un 13, not Jung. John Kim Jong Un 13. I'm shouting out your account right now, my friend. Fantastic name. Well done. I don't know what you do. I don't know why you're here. I don't know what you're getting out of this show, but Kim Jong Un. Well, okay. Well, I've started something here, but this one is a far more appropriate. I've just mentioned that Natalie Huxtable is in the chat. I also mentioned that her brother, Chris, was one of the 4 guys that was killed. Apparently today it's his birthday, or would have been his birthday. Natalie, more than happy heavenly birthday to Chris Huxtable. Sadly no longer with us, even more sadly no longer with his little sister Natalie. More than happy to do that for you, Natalie. My condolences as ever, but particularly today on what would have been his birthday. So yes, more than happy to do that. He'd be 42 today, died at 33, had his 34th birthday under the rubble. Wow. Unbelievable. 42. That is no age at all. That's me 17 years ago. All that I'd have missed if I'd have died 17 years ago. Natalie, my thoughts are with you and with your family, obviously. Now, Wolfie has just said, the question on my mind is, what good does fuel dye do? Thief doesn't care if your diesel is purple, just use it anyway. I can only imagine it's good if they are caught. That is basically the idea. It is basically, well, I guess for the opportunist thief, they might look at it and think, that is traceable. Maybe I'll go for something a little bit easier, possibly. But yes, you're absolutely right. The main idea there with the diesel dye is if somebody finds it and uncovers the fact that it's purple, they can trace it back to its original owner. Not that that's of any use, but that's exactly what it is. There's Gary Muirhead saying, happy birthday, Christopher. Yeah, right as well. Steve says, it's like going to a full car dealer, buy this great car. It's great on fuel, it's the best, but they drive a BMW. All very good, all very true. I need to go back a bit further, I think. No, this is the man that named the Hydra-Dig the Hydra-Pig. There goes my invite to JCB. They're very open. They really are, and they do genuinely ask. I mean, bearing in mind, I am but a journalist. When they unveiled the 370X, I had 2 or 3 of the JCB guys come up and say, "So, come on, what do you think? What do you think? What did we do? What did we do right? What did we do wrong? Where could we improve? They're very, very open. Mick says, I don't believe it. Some schmuck just knocked on the door. I'm doing a survey for the management of the building. Can I come in? It's bank holiday. The hound poked his head around the living room door and the bloke turned white and agreed it's not a good time. I had a knock on the door once. It was the middle of the Euro Championships and England were playing live on TV. Yes, I'm sorry, I was just a bit distracted. Knock at the door and there was a local Liberal Democrat candidate. So I stood back, I held my hand up and gestured towards the TV, and then I slammed the door in his face. Some people with no class at all, have they? Now, hello, this is Sarah Jane Turner, by the way. Hello, this is, I'm not doing an impression because I've never met her. Hello, this is Mrs. Jim Turner. He's driving at the moment, so I'm doing his typing. Could have some fun with this. Yes, Sarah Jane Turner. We know what he looks like. What's he really like? What's his worst habit? If you could change one thing about Jim, what would it be? Knock yourself out, Sarah Jane. Knock yourself out. You carry on, girl. Chris Ford. Jim, have you been hacked? I hope he hasn't. I hope that's absolutely right. Question: when do they actually test the diesel? I've not seen it yet. I think it's when you uncover, a ring of people that have been actively stealing diesel. That's when the testing takes place. And Natalie Haxtable says, thanks all, don't worry, we're still waiting on date. Yeah, just on that subject, is the 1st of May happening? Is that going ahead? Is my presence required? Natalie, let me know. There is Dan Cullen. Welcome, Sarah Jane. Yeah, Chris Ford says, Sarah Jane, dish the dirt. Oh, we've got Jim on the run here. Got a feeling Jim may be walking around with his head hanging down in shame here. Please, Sarah Jane, type away. I'm sorry, Jim, but, too good an opportunity to miss. It's time for something else. Should we have a bit of this? Oh, we're an awful bunch, aren't we? Jim, this could cost you a fortune, mate. Love it. Sarah Jane Turner, you're our most welcome guest ever. Well done. We showed you Kubota. Kubota are going to be at Intermat after 50 years in Europe. The final film we've got for you today features a company that's been in Europe for rather less than 50 years. But in the time they've been here, they really have made quite a splash. And as you're about to see, they're looking to do the same when we get to Intermat. This is LiuGong. There's that. I must admit, I'm a little disappointed with Sarah Jane Turner's first response because this has clearly been dictated by Big Jim himself. I think the trouble with JCB and their products is that the opinions from the operators on site aren't getting to the management or development team. As the fellow they sent from the factory didn't seem interested. He also said he would be back out in another couple of 100 hours. I'd love the opportunity to have the crack with someone higher up in management to voice my opinion. JCB. Meet Jim Turner, who is sat behind Sarah Jane Turner, meet Jim Turner, and I'll come back to that in a minute. And Jim Turner, meet JCB. They really are incredibly open. Well, they are with me. I don't know whether that's universal. They're very open with me. If I can do anything to get that introduction made, Jim, I will most certainly do it. And there is Sarah Jane saying, right, Jim, what I don't like about him, where do I start? Start at the beginning. I've got nowhere else to be. Question of the day. My question of the day today is, are you celebrating Christmas? Question of the day, as Jesus said to his mum, don't give my eggs away. I'll be back on Monday. Well done. Natalie Huxtable. Apparently, yes, there is going to be a meeting between the bereaved families and the police, Thames Valley Police, on the 1st of May. Please, Natalie, give my thoughts to your mum as well, and while you're about it. Obviously, a very difficult time for both you and her. Jim, Jim, you sure you've not gone in for the change? She sounds just like you. Well done. Like the green, but not the electrical version, says Dan, talking about LiuGong. This is our first Volvo excavator we've purchased, and I can't fault the service from SMT Volvo in Scotland. Yeah, well, certainly the way they've looked after you, Gary, I think is admirable. Anybody else got any tales? I don't know if anybody else saw on the WhatsApp group that Gary Muirhead got his new machine and then was inundated with new goodies from the fine folks at JCB's, high vises and models and hats and stuff. Anybody else got anything you'd like to add on that? Please feel free. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, that's about it. That really is about it. That's about it for the main part of the Today Show. That's it for the week. It's also for Monday as well, because I'm not going to be here. I'm going to go and spend some time with my family, assuming they're still speaking to me, now that I've told you that my wife is A, a lush, and B, not going to Paris. Mick says, Natalie, can only hope they give you some sort of answer. We'll still have your backs on this. We won't go away. No, we most certainly won't. We most certainly won't. Somebody asked me recently about me retiring. I've got no intention of retiring whatsoever. I am just 59. No intention of retiring whatsoever. But I do kind of have in the back of my head, once Didcot is resolved, I think that might be a time to reconsider. I'm hoping it's going to be sooner rather than later. Now, bearing in mind, my wife does actually join in on this show. I wouldn't ask her this question, but we did ask Sarah Jane Turner to offer some points on our friend Jim. Oh boy, did she! She says he's an arrogant, selfish dickhead. Hate the big beard too. My wife would use those precisely the same words. Jim, we know she's only joking. No answer to the beard bit. Love it. Will we ever see Fred taking over the full? No, I wouldn't have thought so. I wouldn't have thought so. No, he is adamantly the man behind rather than in front of the camera. He has appeared in front of the camera a couple of times and hated every second of it. Although, frankly, so did I to begin with, and now, as you can tell, I bask. I had a lovely message last night. I reached out to somebody at Mechalac over in America that I've known for a good time. No, I've known for a good while. I didn't know him for a good time. That would mean something completely different. No, I've known him for a good while, and he basically has been watching the show from afar. And I don't know if I can find it. I'm not bragging here. It just struck me as a really nice thing to say. If I can find it, where is he? There we go. Yes, he says, hello, Mark. Good to hear from you. I've been enjoying your wry commentary over the last while. Dare I say you are reaching new heights of insight and influence, he says. Thanks, Peter. That means the world. Dan Cullen says you must get a weekend. Come visit yourself and Jim, Sarah Toon. I'm only in Nuneaton, just up the road. Sarah, you big softy, Sarah. You big softy. On a plus point, he's the best husband ever. Oh, bless. Oh, bless. So yes, he is. Apparently, he is an arrogant, selfish dickhead, but he's the best husband as well. Fantastic mix. Yeah, that does pretty much wrap up things today. I am going to hop over into the chat in just a moment. If anybody would like to have a bit of a natter, need to be done in the next, I don't know, 30 minutes or so, because I do have places to be. So let me roll. Well, I tell you what, let me do the actual script. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the chat to see what you're all saying. So if you can't stick around for that, please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Hope to see you again very soon. Enjoy Easter, enjoy your Easter eggs, enjoy whatever else it is you do, which we'll be talking about in just a moment. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I'll be back with the Craic immediately after this final word from our key show sponsor. Just about hear that. That's about right. Mick Norton says, do you know, the first I heard about this was from you this morning, Mick. Any thoughts on the arbitrary decision by some police forces to ban heavy road mobile cranes from the highways over Easter? Yes, apparently the police force have decided they don't want heavy cranes on our roads over Easter to ease traffic. My question is, arbitrary, yes. Why just cranes? You see lots and lots of traffic, but why just cranes? Are cranes a particular problem when it comes to traffic? I don't believe they are. Why? And bearing in mind what cranes actually do, you know, they are on the road on their way to serving a purpose, one would imagine. You know, that's kind of their job. So if you're going to take them off the road and accept the fact that they're not going to be allowed to do their job, take off low loaders carrying plant, take off trucks delivering food and other household items. The hell? Who decided that was a good idea? Just seeing it. Arbitrary is exactly the word. Dan Cullen says, now, sun and bloody blinding is hitting a hole of after infant of me. I don't know what that means. I think that's a mistyping. I am going to go back to the beginning of the chat. I'm going to rattle through this rather quickly, but let's have a look. Blimey, it just keeps going on. There is Dan Cullen saying, Happy Good Friday. Yeah, Happy Good Friday. We will come to the question of the day in just a moment, but it's just a day, isn't it? You know, I fully accept the fact that some people are religious and they do the whole Easter thing seriously. But to me, just a day. To be perfectly honest, when I first said about potentially broadcasting today, it wasn't because, you know, I was trying to prove a point. It was literally a case of, well, as far as I'm concerned, just another day in the calendar. Doesn't really matter to me at all. But I will be coming back to that in just a moment. Dan was first off the mark, I think, but we was quickly joined by Mark Whiting, by Footy, by Gary Muirhead as well, all of whom joined us first thing this morning. As you can see, there's Gary Muirhead saying, Happy Easter. How the Googles are we on Good Friday? I hope you're all relaxing while I'm load washing plant. Still at work. Jim Turner, who we know is the world's greatest husband, apparently. Ken Hatter is in Tesco's having his breakfast. There's Gary saying good morning and happy Easter to my other half as well. Chris Ford, there's loads and loads of stuff still. Yeah, Wolfie saying still working on Good Friday. Yeah, just a day. Ken Hatcher saying please have a day off. It's a bank holiday. I will be taking a day off on Monday. Don't bother turning up looking for me on Monday because I won't be here. I will probably be in a chocolate coma by then. Gary Muirhead, much the same as me. I'm still working, only getting Monday. Did you sort out the washing machine? No. There is a call has been placed, but we're going to my eldest daughter's house today, and we're taking a bunch of washing with us. So while she's feeding us and generally entertaining us, and I'm playing with the grandchildren, somebody's going to be doing the washing at her house. So we're okay. Question of the day: It was obvious, wasn't it? Will you be celebrating Easter? I've got to be honest, as somebody that is completely non-religious, I don't even know what the deal is at Easter. Is there a particular is there like an Easter mass thing that you do? I sound ridiculously ignorant, not for the first time in my life. I don't actually know what the deal is if you are into the religious side of Easter. I honestly don't know. I know about the eggs, which I can't explain. I know about the bunnies. Can't explain that either. I know all about that. I have no inclination or no understanding of the religious side of things at all. So do you pop off to church? Is there a special, I don't know, session? Session seems the wrong word to be using in religious circumstances, but I actually don't know. Mick Norton joined us. There you are. Wolfie says we will be celebrating Easter rather. How will you be? How do you find folks over in the US of A? How do you mark Easter? I've got a pretty good understanding of how you go about your Thanksgiving and stuff. I've no idea what you do at Easter, and do you do what we do at Easter? I don't even know what we do at Easter, to be perfectly honest. So yes, let us know. There is Jim Turner. Yes, we will be celebrating by working at our place, probably finishing off putting a lambing tent in, planting trees, maybe a bit of digging in the woods. We'll be eating chocolate, and as Lent finishes on Sunday, I'll be back on the booze after being dry for the last 40 days. 40 days. Wow. There is my wife bemoaning the fact that I can't do the garden. I mean, I probably could do some work out in the garden, but I would need the scuba gear, and I have no intention of doing that. Footy says, that lighting that goes across the bottom of the screen every time you missed dream comes on the right and gets in the way, so I can't see it. I think I know what that is. I think that's when I'm putting comments up and there's writing on the screen. If that's the case, my apologies. The problem is I never know when the writing is going to come up on the screen. I just, obviously I've watched the film in advance to make sure it's appropriate, but I don't know the exact timings, so I just throw up comments as they arrive. My apologies. There's Gary Muirhead. No celebration. No, just another day. We do nothing special. Yeah, me either. As I say, I feel like I could be missing out. I've always, I am completely agnostic, atheist, uninvolved in all things religious. The only thing I would say is I wouldn't mind doing midnight mass one year. Quite like the songs. Don't buy into the everything that goes with it, but Easter, mystery to me. Guesses upon guesses upon guesses on our mystery machine, which, as we all know, turned out to be the Komatsu 980E, correctly identified by our friend Mr. Williamson. Yeah, Kubota. I saw Kubota. I think I saw Kubota go from 5 to 6 to 7 and possibly to 8 tons. I can't remember if I was still there when they went to 8 tons. But yeah, you'd have to think, there is that market, and they do have a very, very good reputation. Very good reputation. Don't know the answer to that one, Gary. I know there are some members of the Kubota family still involved, but I don't actually know. One of the things I always found interesting when working with Kubota was about every 2, sometimes 3 years, they would send over somebody to basically run. Let me get rid of, I can't do inverted commas when that's on the screen. Would run. I was working with Kubota when it was run. The UK general manager, I think, was a guy called John Woodward. Absolutely smashing fella. Basically helped put Kubota on the map here in the UK. But once every 2 or 3 years, they would send over a high-ranking person from Japan, and they would come in and basically sit above John Woodward and advise and guide and everything else. And by and large, they would come over, do a couple of years here, and then go back to a big promotion in Japan. That was the way it worked. May still be the case. I honestly don't know. Mick Norton, totally right. I always found Kubota excavators very versatile and robust tool. Yeah, they have always, certainly in my experience, always had a very good, very good reputation. Made my life as a PR type very, very easy. You could virtually take a customer at random, go out and talk to them, and by and large, they had positive things to say, which is always a good start. Our friend Steve is not celebrating Easter as such. More guesses on our mystery machine, but there is the winning answer. It was the Komatsu 980E. The 980E, the electric one. Going back to the Raptor, which is our friend Garvin over at Mostly Diggers has just said. Weird name. Any experienced tilt rotor operator will see a few major flaws with this tilt rotator. I bow to your superior knowledge on the subject, but you would think that JCB and their engineering team would have had plenty of time and opportunity to go out and do their own homework. There are plenty of tilt rotators out there for them to go and have a look at, take apart, pull apart, and have a good look. So it would be interesting to see. I mean, and again, I said this. You say this with all these things. I don't want to be too hasty in criticising a first-gen machine. You think about the first generation of your iPhone. With hindsight, I mean, at the time it was a revelation, but with hindsight, no apps. I mean, basically you were buying a telephone. You bought it to make telephone calls and do the occasional text. At no point did anyone tell you it was going to be a very, very capable video camera. At no point did anybody tell you it was going to be the computer that you probably use most often and stuff like that. So as I say, I'm very, very loath to be overly critical of a first generation or a first iteration of a product, because you just know, I've always wondered that, actually. I will need to ask this of a major manufacturer at some point. Depending on what the machine is, machines tend to exist in a 3, 4, 5 year cycle. So they will launch product A, or the A series of a product, and then maybe a couple of years later it might get a bit of an update, but then a couple of years after that it will come back as the B version, and then 5 years down the line it will be the C version and everything else. I wonder when that starts. I wonder when that process starts. The Raptor is now out in the wild. It's available. I wonder when work starts on the next iteration. As far as I'm concerned, as far as I know, they may have already done it. They may have already started to. Okay, well, we've got that one, but we've tested it ourselves, and maybe we could tweak this and hide that and put that up. I wonder when that starts. At JCB, if you're watching, when does that start? I'd love to hear from you. Footy says, for JCB, excellent idea on the hydraulic, extra idea. I give it a hot. There you are. Horses for courses, as we said. There's Gary Muirhead again, a Steelwrist fan, but also another tilt rotator fan as well. Not sure about the rams being exposed at the back. Could be damaged very easily. I do find that interesting when you think that some of the competitors actively, promote the fact that everything's tucked away and it's as narrow as possible, and everything, there's nothing that you can snag. I wonder what the thought process was there. I'm not saying they're wrong. Maybe they've done extensive testing and figured out we don't need that. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Jim Turner, I think this really sums up the sitch. I suppose their tilt rotor is a bit like their machines, JCB obviously. It's either good or bad depending on the price compared to the competition. With most things, there's usually something out there that's better but more expensive. It is, and I think it is Steve actually mentions it later on. He mentions Ford cars. I think if money were no object, how many people would still drive a Ford car? Very few, I would imagine. There'd be a lot more Lamborghinis and Ferraris and Bugattis and the like on the road, and Mercedes and all that kind of thing. But you choose according to your budget and you choose according to your use case. Frankly, when it comes to a car, I don't give a monkey's. As long as it's got a wheel at each corner and a steering wheel in the right place, I don't really give a monkey's what make it is. Just want it to get me from A to B. So I'm not interested. Not a petrol head, not interested. And, I think there is a divide. I mean, bearing in mind the point that Joe Westman made about tilt rotators. They've only achieved a 5% market penetration. So there's 95% of the market out there that is either not experienced a tilt rotator or frankly doesn't give a toss. And maybe as an introductory machine or an introductory product, maybe that's where the Raptor sits. Maybe JCB have been very, very strategic. Maybe they are looking to be the first rung on the tilt rotator ladder. If that's the case, they're even smarter than I thought. Dan Cullen saying, is anyone else working? This guy, if you call pressing buttons working. Joe is a very nice guy. Yeah, Joe is a very nice guy and very knowledgeable about anything Steelwrist. I was, as I say, very unfair to Joe. I gave him no warning, no time to consider, just literally sat him down, stuck a camera up his nose. He was very nervous. I don't know if you saw, he was kind of playing with his fingers. But like all people that know their onions, unfazed. You know, he knows his stuff very, very well. And you will recall that we had Mr. Steelwrist himself, Pat, on the show a couple of days ago. Well, Joe actually worked alongside Pat, so he's proper Steelwrist old school. He's an OG Steelwrist man, so he knows his stuff. Mick says, as an older plant operator, I welcome the concept of Steelwrist ancillary. Yeah, I think that's an interesting distinction. As an older operator, I welcome. I actually said that I think I used the words peak tilt rotator. Can't remember if I was talking to Joe or one of the other Steelwrist guys. But when you think, you know, there is, as we've discussed numerous times on the show, particularly with Steve, there is still within the market a degree of resistance against tilt rotators, quick couplers, GPS, driver aids, and that kind of thing. But the operator, by and large, the operators that are most resistant to that tend to be, not universally, but tend to be the older generation. But slowly that older generation will go away and we will have a generation coming up behind them for whom tilt rotators, GPS, driver aids, all of those things are not a luxury item. They are a requirement. That's all they've ever known. So you think 5% market penetration now, what will that be in 10 years' time, 15 years' time? 50, 60% possibly? You know, anybody that's making tilt rotators at the moment, I would imagine they are eyeing the horizon and rubbing their hands together because there's an awful lot more to come. Steve says, sounds like he's been talking to me, or listening to me rather. Have you spoken to Joe? Maybe he took notes, I don't know. There is our friend Mick saying, morning all, it's a miserable day. Yeah, it is a miserable day out there. But as I say, I'm going to be tucked up with the family a bit later on, surrounded by cakes and buns and Easter eggs, so it won't be that bad. I wonder on that one, Steve. I'll be very, very, very surprised to see any of these Raptors on site. I wonder if that will prove to be the case. As I say, there are many things that JCB are very good at. JCB are very good at, well, obviously very good at making machines. They're very, very good at marketing as well. Almost second to none, I would say, in terms of marketing in this field. But there's also, and I don't want to do the Raptor a disservice because I'm sure some very smart people have worked on it. Let me ask you this. Do you believe that a McDonald's cheeseburger is the best burger available to you? All things considered. However, McDonald's, like JCB, are fantastic at marketing. If anybody is going to shift lots and lots and lots of tilt rotators, I'd back JCB to do it. I really would. And yes, they may not be like yourself, Steve. They may not be tilt rotator purists, but I reckon they're going to move some metal, people. Jim Turner says they get the people who won't invest in the better, more expensive ones, but take a punt on the JCB one if it's more affordable. My thoughts entirely. Yes, you could shop around and find yourself a I can't even remember the name of a Five Guys burger. You could pay 10 quid for your cheeseburger and maybe get a better quality one. But there's a JCB, or no, there's not. There's not a JCB on every corner. There's a McDonald's on every street corner. It's accessible. It's priced right. It's perfectly acceptable. Yeah. Did the JCB pothole repair ancillary gain the market foothold after the much lauded launch? The one thing I would say, and I did actually mention this to one of the guys at JCB, there's been a lot of push on that, and I can't quite figure out whether the guy that is responsible within JCB for the Pothole Pro has the ear of the marketing department, has been doing a lot, or whether they have very sensibly decided, actually, in the run up to an election, and this is entirely predictable. Every consecutive government does exactly the same in the run up. Once we know when an election is going to be taking place, they suddenly find down the back of the sofa at number 10 Downing Street another billion to throw at hospitals, another billion to throw at road and rail, another billion to throw at schools and stuff. I wonder. I think the job they've done up until now in promoting it has been very, very good. I'm sure virtually every local authority is very, very aware of the existence of the Pothole Pro. What we need now is for somebody, Rishi Sunak or somebody else, to come along and say, okay, fellas, we're desperate now, loosen the purse strings, spend some money on these potholes, at which point, I wish I could remember the name of the guy. It'll come to me, but whoever is running the JCB Pothole Pro program will all of a sudden, he will be worth his weight in gold, because I think people will be beating a path to his door. Question of the day. Mick says, I'm a Jew. What do you think? But the dog likes his buns and eggs. So you're not bringing up the hound as a Jew? How does that work? Do you have long heated arguments over your religious beliefs, or is your dog is he agnostic? I was trying to do agnostic. It doesn't work. Is your dog an agnostic? I don't even know where I'm going with that. Good morning to the Demolition News Queen. Good Lord. She'll be unbearable later. Chris Ford says, yes, I'll be celebrating Easter. I bought some chocolate eggs and hot cross buns. There are hot cross buns sat out in my kitchen. And I thought last night, murder a hot cross bun now. No, they're for taking with us to my daughter's house. So they just sat there mocking me. Talking of which, have you seen the price of Easter eggs? No, because I don't care. I haven't bought an Easter egg. I have a couple, but I haven't bought any Easter eggs at all. I understand they are more expensive this year, and I can see this is the point in the show where some of us older fellas will remember, and I mentioned things like, I remember the invention of the Walkman, and I remember flared trousers the first time around, but I also remember chocolate Easter eggs. You used to have to bash them. They were like that thick with chocolate. Wife bought me a little one for last night, so I was sat there watching John Wick 3 for about the 15th time last night, eating my chocolate egg. It was like paper. I picked it up and it just kind of crumbled in my hand. No chocolate in there at all. So if they're getting more expensive and they're using less chocolate, pretty much sums up the world right now, doesn't it? No, Mrs. Demolition Queen is not going to Hillhead this year. The quarry environment would not suit her high heels, which she hardly ever wears, but being trapped in the middle of Buxton without decent bars and stuff. I'm sure Buxton may have bars, but no, she won't be going to that. Let's have a look. Steve says, big downfall on the Hydra dig. Ground clearance, utter crap, he says. Hydra dig, see, this is what I said earlier. Balancing act. Hydra dig, I actually did a job with it at Warner Brothers. Quite enjoyed it. There you are. To be honest with you, and again, I mean, we filmed our footage of the 370X, the Raptor, the IntelliGrade, and all that. We filmed it exactly the same place that JCB did. And to be perfectly honest, one of the things that I've got in, I mentioned earlier, and I still can't name names, although Gary knows who I'm talking about. A couple of 370Xs have been sold to a demolition company. My intention is to go and film them when they've got a few hundred hours on. So, they may have a few cuts and grazes and stuff like that. They may have a bit of mud on the tracks and what have you. Maybe we'll be able to give you a more realistic approach and view of those machines at that point. But you can understand, it's only the same as look at the launch of a car. They're always on pristine roads, always with a nice bit of rain to capture the light and stuff like that. We know it's not real life. It's just what it is. There you are. Then they put guys on the Raptor that have no great tilt rotator experience. All very true. Why not get people that have plenty of experience to try it? Because they're scared of honesty. I don't actually believe that's the case. I'm with you right up until that final sentence. My experience of JCB, and I'm not singling them out, my experience of all the major manufacturers is they do relish feedback. They really do. And using JCB as an example, we did a launch. Can't remember what the products were. Maybe in some electric machines. But myself and Peter did a thing. So JCB launched their new machines, whatever they were, in the afternoon. And then at 6 o'clock that evening, we went live and basically showed it to you guys. And all of you guys were asking questions of the various JCB experts, the engineers and the directors asking questions. And when I came off, they phoned me up and said, these guys are fantastic. We would love to have had them involved in the design of the machine because they're asking questions that we hadn't even thought about. Your views and your opinions are considered valuable. And bearing in mind, not so much with the Raptor, I don't know quite what the process was with that, but the 370X, which was obviously launched alongside the Raptor, that machine went out to the one that sticks in my head. It went over to Croatia, where it was working in the mountains, so hard rock and cold. So it's been out with customers. Those customers have knocked off the rough edges and have come back to JCB and said, well, maybe we need a bit more of this and a bit less of that and some of this. I don't know what the hell these are, but they have done that. They may not have spoken to you, but they have certainly spoken to real living, breathing customers. Mick Norton says the French video admirably demonstrated the control measures to be employed when working at height with hazardous products. Yeah, indeed. And that I've not seen the full details, but obviously earlier this week, I don't know if anybody else is aware, but somebody fell from height on a construction site in the UK. It turns out he used to be on the TV show Gogglebox. Not something that I've spent a great deal of time watching, but apparently he used to be on Gogglebox and is now, or was working in construction and fell from height. Will the fact that it was a celebrity, will that make people take working at height a bit more seriously? I'd like to think it will, but I doubt it. Footy saying exactly the same thing. Love to get my hands on the Raptor. Love somebody give me the chance. I'll give it a damn good test for them. Steve saying Ben Wade, no great tilt rotator experience. Then post saying great bit of kit. False. I think that's being a bit harsh. I think false is, you can only speak as you find, and I had a very quick spin on one of the electric dumpers up there, and I was impressed. I was impressed by, obviously the noise or the lack thereof, the speed of acceleration. Everything was where it needed to be, and everything else. I was impressed. I'm not an expert. I don't drive a dumper from 1 month to the next, sometimes from 1 year to the next, but I was impressed. I don't think that's false. I think it's just what it is, if you see what I mean. Chris Ford says, no good put me on the Raptor. I failed miserably on it. I think I'd be the same. I still see tilt rotators as that. I can only work in one plane. I can't work in three. There goes my invite to JCB. I don't believe that at all. And I don't know if I told you this. OTM Attachments just joined us over on Instagram as well. Good morning to you, folks. Glad to see you here. I did actually mention to Tim Burnhope the idea of actually having a JCB, a Breakfast Show open day featuring the fine folks of the Breakfast Show audience. And I just thought he'd laugh at me or dismiss it out of hand. And he said, I'll have a word. You never know. You never know. We covered that one about all things to do with diesel dye. There is Sarah Jane Turner giving us our expert opinion on JCB. Going to go through all of this because we've done all of this very, very recently. Mick says, one of my ex-wives said that about me a couple of weeks ago. A couple of weeks later, I met her solicitor. It's a funny old world. It is. Dan says, cranes are slow. An on-hill climb slows way down, so probably due to traffic build-up. Is that any worse than any other kind of HGV, though? Just asking. Mick says, sorry, gents, the hound's sitting here with all four legs crossed and a tear in his eye. Enjoy your Easter holiday and stay safe. You too, my friend, even though you're not obviously celebrating it, but good luck. Let's have a look. Chris Ford, they only want slow-moving vehicles off the road during Easter so they can catch more speeders. Now that makes much more sense. No Good Friday. No Good Friday pizza. Is there a Good Friday pizza? Do they do a chocolate pizza for that? Don't know. Do they put rabbit on it? You know, the Easter bunny? I don't know. Apparently, according to Dan Cullen, Easter Mass is a big thing as they I mean, I'm aware of the crucifixion. Please don't think that the Bible is passed me by entirely. But Easter Mass, it is a thing, apparently. I won't be going, obviously, but the news about Jim Turner is still coming out. We're farming all weekend as usual, but we've had chocolate for breakfast. Right and proper. I used to love that as a kid. Christmas morning. Get up, have a full English, which we used to do, and then sit there with my selection box on my lap, cane a couple of chocolate bars before complaining to my mum that Christmas dinner wasn't yet on the table. Used to be able to eat, which is probably why I'm a diabetic now. Apparently, Jim Turner is not a cheap date. He can drink a litre of Baileys in 10 minutes. Wow. Now, bearing in mind, I don't drink, but I do like the occasional Baileys. Dan Cullen saying, question of the day, do you celebrate Easter? I will be this evening and on Sunday. Good luck to you, my friend. I see. Okay. Footy going back on my captions. Subtitles go across the screen, gets in the way of the mystery machine. Okay. In that case, I will try to avoid using captions while the mystery machine is on the screen. Point well taken. I don't see it the way that you see it, so I take your point on that. Chris Ford says, I've got the job organised. Oh, Sarah Jane, I've got the job organised. The boss and her brother does the lambing. I watch from afar. Best way. Where? Best way. Peter McKenna, yes, I did see that Peter McKenna was suffering. I don't think Peter will be eating too many chocolate Easter eggs this year. I've been on to the emergency dentist. No appointment today. Got to ring back tomorrow. Ouch. Is there a worse... Any ladies watching, yes, I'll give you childbirth. Any men watching, I will give you a kick to the nards. But is there a worse pain than toothache? I had toothache that bad as a kid once, and my dad woke up to find me beating my head on the kitchen floor. I was laying on the kitchen floor to try and cool down my face. It didn't work, and I was literally laying there. Unbelievably painful. I think Rams on steel is similar to JCB, but Knox looks a better fit if worried about ram damage. The Knox is very smart, I have to say. Peter McKenna says, I will never own an electric car, even if I was being given one. Which is a shame, because I was on the verge of giving you an electric car, Peter, but I've changed my mind now. Chris Ford, who should know about things all Ford related. Ford cars, wasn't that long ago. They own Land Rover and Volvo. Indeed. Why is there no LPG construction machinery? Kubota do have an LPG mini excavator, or they certainly did. I don't know if they still do. Dan Cullen saying McDonald's is shite, never liked them, food's horrible. But they sell a shit ton of burgers. They really do. Am I a fan? No. But if I'm out on the road and I'm peckish, not a problem. Mick Norton says, I remember the early days of hydraulic impact hammers and how the doubters were proved wrong. Listen, I think we all know by now that I know absolutely sod all about sod all. But I do remember doing a piece on the first bunch of mini excavators that I remember seeing personally, mid to late 80s, were all in the sort of 2 to 3 ton class. I remember going to an SED, and I wish I could remember who it was, but it was a Japanese made machine, and it was the first micro excavator I'd ever seen. It was about, I don't know, 3/4 of a ton, and I actually wrote a piece saying that it would be perfect for digging over your window box, and I mocked it openly. So I literally ripped the piss out of the thing. They sold thousands of them and continue to do so. I know lots of people that aren't bothering with rotators but still want the tilting mechanisms. It was once said that JCB was a marketing company that happened to make diggers. Yeah, no, listen, and I'm saying that as a positive thing. They are exceptionally good at marketing. In my opinion, pretty much second to none. I mean, I think some of the stuff that Bobcat have been doing recently has been exceptionally good. But in terms of, constant presence, brand recognition and everything else, I honestly think JCB really do take some beating. All I see is chaos eating out McDonald's, too lazy to cook their kids' dinner. This is one reason some families are in poverty, I believe. Yeah, it makes you wonder. Peter McKenna says Easter eggs are as cheap as chips at Tesco's. Ken Hatter, if you're still having your breakfast, you can pick up a cheap egg, apparently. Dan Cullen says, have you ever noticed how everything goes up in price but never comes back down? Yeah, I have. Peter McKenna says there are some good drinking and eating establishments in Buxton and surrounding areas. Yeah, I'm sure there is. Trouble is, I like to be very, very close to an exhibition. I don't want to be schlepping through traffic in the morning. I'd much rather just, I stayed in an Airbnb probably 3 hillheads ago, and it was that close to the showground I actually walked into it every day. That was good. Dan Khan says, Steve, you're wrong. You're wrong there. Probably the reason is people are at work, don't have time to fluff around travelling. I'm not sure what that was about. They are doing top-down demolition on 2 blocks of flats in Preston starting March the 12th by Onward Group. I don't know Onward Group. Why do I not know Onward Group? Have a brew on me, Mark. I will certainly try that. Easter pizza should be lamb, chicken, and scrambled egg. This. No, thank you. If somebody invents that, I'm passing. There are no abnormal lows moved on any bank holiday unless it's been authorised months in advance, says Peter McKenna. I didn't know that. Always thought that the roads seem a bit quieter on a bank holiday, but unless you're going down to the coast, in which case, completely different. Apparently, according to Footy, Baileys and Guinness is quite nice. I remember as a younger man, before my alcohol consumption caught up with me, a pint of Guinness with a port dropped into it. That was some good stuff. I mean, the hangover afterwards was basically death. But while it was going down, it was a fine thing. It's weird, isn't it? Literally can't drink. I cannot drink. But there are some things I think back to and think, I could murder one of those right about now. Jim Turner says, not 10 minutes, but a couple of hours about average for me. Listen, I think we had it straight from the horse's mouth when Sarah Jane Turner said you could do a litre of Baileys in 10 minutes. I believe her. Did you see the stars I sent you, Mark? The stars? On the basis that I don't know what you're talking about, Peter, no. I have not. Stars you sent me. Peter also says, I like Guinness Shandy. I've never thought of that. not unusual to have a lager shandy or a bitter shandy. I've never heard of a stout shandy before. It's a new one on me. If I still drank, I'd go and give one of those a try. A Jaguar engine is the same as a Ford engine in a Ford, or same engine in a Ford Mondeo. Is that right? I'm sure I've heard that somewhere before. I broke 9 ribs in 2020. I thought that pain was bad till I started with the toothache. Graham says on your Facebook he sent you some stars. You sent us some actual stars. I don't see them because I don't. I know it sounds weird. I'm not looking at Facebook. Facebook is not here at all. I'm looking at the feedback from Facebook. So I've not seen that. But Peter, thank you very much. In actual fact, you have sent stars to my son. So on behalf of Fred, thank you. You didn't need to do that, but thank you. Thank you very much indeed. I think that's about it. I was aiming for an hour and a half. We've done an hour and 32 minutes. Not bad at all. It is that time, people. It is time for you to go and have 3 days with, 3 3/4 days actually, without my weird presence. So have a good remainder of your Friday. Have a good Saturday, a Sunday, and a Monday as well, because I won't be here on any of those. But I'll see you on Tuesday for more of this post-Easter catch-up. Till then, everybody, really try and have a fantastic time with your families. Eat chocolate, eat hot cross buns, go to your Easter Mass, which apparently is a thing. Go enjoy yourselves. You've more than earned it. Yes, Guinness, have a wonderful weekend and a lovely time with your families. Peter McKenna says, enjoy your weekend. Hopefully I can have my extraction tomorrow. I'll keep my fingers crossed for you. Footy says, I might not be here on Tuesday. All the rest of the week, don't know. But you do have a new position to start, so good luck with that. Somebody else is going to be starting a new position. I'm not giving the game away, but I know somebody else is starting a new position. That will become clear in the fullness of time. I'll tell you about it more when we get to it. Till then, everybody, have a really good Friday. Good Friday. Have a fantastic Easter. Have a great day off on Monday. You've more than earned it. I'll see you on Tuesday. Till then, everybody, happy Easter. All the best.